one day about 2 years ago, my cousin had called me up and she had told me she wanted to buy this apartment in Hurstville. Like, great, you know, she's saved money, she's able to buy property, like, good on her for doing that, right? But like deep down when she was telling me about this apartment in Hurstville and how the agent wanted another 10K off her, deep down I was like, please do not buy it. Inside I think I was screaming. I was like, don't buy it. But the thing is, like, you can't tell someone not to do something. All you can do is provide them with the information, and it's up to them to decide whether or not they take action on that information. You know, everyone goes through their own journey. So look, if she ended up buying it, you know, that's her experience. But knowing my personal experience of buying a unit and not seeing growth and having 7 years worth of savings pretty much do nothing over 10 years. You know, I didn't want her to go through that experience. And so I think that kind of really accelerated me wanting to be in this space to prevent people from making those mistakes.
The information provided in this podcast is for general purposes only and should not be considered personal advice. Always consult with qualified professionals or experts in the relevant field for personalized advice tailored to your specific situation. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Catching Up with Property. We're really lucky today because we've got Lorna Wang.
Hi, Scott.
She's a buyer's agent. So there's a few things you want to lean into and listen to in this episode. She's going to share with us her property journey, and also a couple of insights into areas that she's helping her clients with. So let's go.
Yeah, I mean, definitely excited to share some of my knowledge and also my personal experience when it comes to property. I think everyone has their own journey to go through, and if I can help someone out there and, you know, provide them with some sort of knowledge or support, that'd be great.
And also just listening to someone else's like property journey, like how they did it, mistakes they've made. You know, everybody, when they're listening for those little gems as well. Thank you so much. So let's start. Why did you want to buy property?
Well, I guess most people, you know, they're want to get rich maybe. But look, that's not the only reason why, you know, I decided to get into property. I think pretty much it is to have some sort of financial security. And with myself, right, I grew up as a first generation Australian, and my parents, they immigrated here from China. And typically when you come here from a developing country, you grow up with not a lot at all. And so you don't have that financial security. And so for me, property was an avenue to just help me establish some sort of safety net, pretty much. Yeah. What about you? Why did you get into property or buy property, Scott?
My first time, there was no intention buying property. My brother just asked me, hey, do you want to go halves? And I was like, oh, okay. But then I realized buying property was a means to wealth or a means to your financial future. And then after I bought my first one, realizing the capital growth and the growth in there and what you can actually do with property, so you can add value to it, do renovations, etc., and build in that value in there. Then I realized actually, if you understand property, it can be quite predictable. Whereas some other asset classes, you know, you're probably a small fry in the big ocean, and you can't really bake in profits that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think with property, the beauty of it is being able to leverage, right? You save for a deposit and then you buy something that is worth a lot more money. And then over time, the predictability of that, right? Most people over time will make money through property. And that's how a lot of people become millionaires.
Yes, I am with you on that, sister. So when did you buy your first investment?
So with the first investment, there's actually a little bit of a backstory.
Yes.
I started working when I was 15, pretty much working after hours, after school, during uni, that sort of thing.
Love it. Hustle culture.
Yeah. Like saving really hard along with it. And so it took me about 7 years to actually save for my first deposit on that property. And I bought that when I was 22.
Wow, you bought it when you were 22? That's amazing. Did you get help from parents or all on your own?
It was all on my own in terms of saving for that deposit. When it came to actually buying it, I did have my mum come with me to like a few open homes. But again, you know, I was just looking at what I liked, what I kind of knew, what I was comfortable with as well. And obviously properties within my budget. So yeah, that one was the first one.
Wow. Okay. And then at that time, did you exercise your first homeowner's grant at that time? Was it for you to live in?
So I bought that when it was 2014. And at the time, there was actually buying an established property, they didn't have any government incentives. It was only for properties that were either off the plan or just newly built.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't
tough.
benefit from any of those government incentives.
You didn't even get the stamp duty waiver?
No. Yeah.
Man, hats off, man. That means you went in, you saved your whole deposit and you went in on your own.
Yeah.
And so what was that? You end up buying a unit or a house?
It was a unit. So I bought a 2-bedroom unit in the suburb of Yaguna.
Yaguna. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Our previous episode, Adam, he was sharing his story as well in Yaguna.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very little suburb. Most people would know Bankstown as like the big up and coming with the Westfield, that sort of thing.
There's a UW West there now.
Oh yeah.
Massive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you end up buying this unit.
Yeah.
So did you live in it or did you use it as an investment? What did you do?
I went straight as an investment. So I've never lived in it. The intention was maybe at some point because, you know, it is in Sydney and that's where I'm based. But at this stage, it's just been forever, almost for 10 years. It's been an investment property.
Nice. Wow. So you're still holding it now?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you've gone from 1 property to 5 properties now, which is pretty impressive.
Thanks, Scott.
So can you share that journey? Like how did you go from 1 to 5 and where did you buy? Like
when it came from 1 to 5, there was actually a massive delay. So I bought the first one in 2014 and then I didn't buy my next one until October of 2019.
Okay.
So there was
almost 5 years.
Yeah, there was pretty much a 5-year gap between.
What was the 5-year gap for?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously had to continue to save. And personally, the first one, it didn't work out very well for me. So I didn't see growth. I didn't see rental growth either. Yeah. And so that definitely held me back from being able to kind of take the next step.
Back in.
Yeah. And also, I think, you know, with the first one not doing so well, it's like, well, is it for me?
You got cold
Is
feet.
it not for me? Yeah. And so like during that 5 years, I did think about buying the next one. So obviously I was saving at the same time. And then, you know, I think about maybe 4 years later, I looked at getting another pre-approval. I could borrow again, but again, just second guessing myself. Like it's not like I can borrow heaps of money as well. And so it was just like, well, maybe I should just leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you went back in time, what would you have done something differently with that first one?
Yeah, definitely.
What would you have done?
I definitely would have looked a lot more into it, gotten the right education and probably spoken with a lot more people when it came to property and buying property. I do feel like I kind of got taken for a ride with the first one, especially when it came down to it and being in the real estate agent's office. I remember the agent, you know, I had the contract for $367,000. And I remember just being in the office and just kind of about to sign. And the agent themselves was like, oh, you know, what about another extra $3,000? It's only a cup of coffee.
They did that?
Yeah.
Which agent was this? Are we allowed to say?
Probably shouldn't disclose, but yeah, I don't know. I was just really young at the time, and you know, my mum, like, you know, being immigrants as well. It's not like, you know, her community. Yeah, English wasn't her
first language. Yeah, so the barrier.
Yeah, there's barriers there, and then me being like only 22.
Yeah.
Just really young and just really naive and yeah.
I guess it goes back to that, like that thing, you know, like building that trusted team around you.
Yeah.
When you're buying your property, it doesn't matter if it's your first or your 5th property, you need to build that trusted team who can give you that advice, because I guess if you had that at that point, your portfolio could have been probably fast tracked.
Yeah, for sure. Having a team around you, right? One of the really important things is with property, it's not just about property, it's about the financing involved in it as well. Because having a good broker that knows what they're doing when it comes to lending and how you can get to the next one sooner is vital to actually be able to scale and build wealth in property.
Yeah, it's road mapping your next 2, 3, 4 properties and kind of mapping out where you're going to get that next deposit and also that borrowing ability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Using different lenders.
Yeah.
You know, you would know that, Scott, right?
Yeah. So obviously when we're looking at a client, we map out 2, 3, 4 properties. And then there's a lot of hypotheticals in there, like hypothetical rents. But the main thing is, you know, what does a person need to do or what does their portfolio need right now to move on to that next property? But also asking the question how are you going to get that deposit or the equity position to go into that next one is something that we do. Yeah. Wow. So that was a big lesson for you.
Yeah.
And it took you 5 years to get back in. I'm so glad you got back in.
Yeah. Me too. I'm glad I got in before the boom.
Oh, you got in before the boom. Yes. Yeah. So what was the second property?
So the second property, I bought that in Adelaide.
Adelaide.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I bought that. It was a 3-bed in Clovelly Park. So just in the Marion Council. I think it's about half an hour from the CBD or even 15 minutes to half an hour from the CBD.
Yep.
Not that that's, you know, massively important. However, yeah, a great part of Adelaide. It's a very tightly held suburb as well. So there's not a lot of properties for sale in the area as well.
So a lot of higher owner occupied. Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of people, they do hold it for many years before they end up actually selling. So that does help with the capital growth on that property. So, yeah.
And is that because there's not so much trade, so the value appreciates? Is that the idea behind it?
I think it's just more that people in there, they love living there. It's just a suburb for a lot of families as well. So there's not a lot of rental properties in the area too.
Nice.
Yeah, but I bought that through InvestorKit, which is the buyer's agency that I actually work for.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So you ended up, so your second one, you got educated and you leveraged the data through InvestorKit to buy that second one in Adelaide. Now that was a house. So you went from unit to house. That was your second one. So what was your third one?
That one was another house. And yeah, that one was in Eastern Heights, which is a suburb in Ipswich. So it's about half an hour from Brisbane. Yeah, so bought that again using InvestorKit. So through a buyer's agent, getting the right advice, obviously having the right research along with it has seen a lot of capital growth in that too.
Yeah. And then how did you go from property 2 to property 3 in terms of your deposit position and your finance? Like how did you go from property 2 to property 3?
Yeah, so it was definitely through just saving really hard.
Yeah.
So during that stage when I realized with property, right, you do need to save, but you also, you know, if you do have the ability to pull out equity to help you scale further, those are definitely good ways to I guess, quickly buy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally was just pretty much eating beans on toast, canned tuna.
No 2-minute noodles?
2-minute noodles, yeah, definitely meagering.
Korean noodle spam.
Pretty much. And then, you know, obviously the fried egg on top.
Yes.
Gives you all the protein, the carbs.
Hey, you got to throw some veggies in, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saving for your property 3, you got into property 2, property 3, and by this time, when did you buy property 4 then?
So I bought property 4 in September 2020. That one I actually bought in a regional town. So that was my first foray into, you know, yeah, just not in the middle of nowhere, but just in an area that isn't like a big city where it's
So
not
like
like you're getting international
major-
flights and all that. Yeah.
But a major regional hub.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, regional Victoria in Bendigo.
Oh, okay. Bendigo's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Nice. So you end up going in Bendigo, and then property 4, did you save for that deposit as well? Or by
Yeah.
this time you...
Bit of both. Yeah.
Okay, so you pulled out a bit of equity from your portfolio, And then you use savings as well to go into property 4.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. And then this time you bought in regional Victoria, but major regional. So, and then property number 5.
That one again was in Adelaide. So the last 4 properties that I bought were all houses, freestanding, already established, good block of land, that sort of thing. The last one, that one was in Adelaide, but a different part. So it was more towards the northeast of Adelaide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a house as well?
Yeah, that one was a house. That one, I actually ended up buying that one off market.
Oh, you bought it off market?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that one, the backstory was that the owners, they were looking to sell because they wanted to build their own house. And so they wanted to rent it back off me.
Okay. So it was a sale leaseback?
Yeah.
Sale leaseback for how long? 6 months?
Well, it was meant to be 6 months, but it's been nearly 2 years and they're still in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what happened to the building?
Well, there were just delays with builds. Yeah, there were delays and obviously, costs have increased a fair bit since COVID to actually build. So I think it's just about ready. I did get notice from my property manager to say that, maybe in the next couple of months they just want to do on a rolling lease.
Yeah.
So I've approved that and everything. But it's been crazy 2 years since they bought it off me, and it's seen a lot of growth in both capital and also rents.
Wow. And how's your portfolio faring now?
So right now, holding about 5 actually holding 5 properties, 4 houses, 1 unit. All the rents are yielding about 6% plus.
Nice.
Which is pretty good. Yeah. So they've increased a fair bit over the time. And the portfolio is valued about 2.7 million now.
Wow. And how much do you think you got in?
So my loans it's about 60-40.
60-40. That's really good. You've baked in some good profit there.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're ready to leverage and go again.
Yeah, for sure.
So technically right now you've got a handful of properties. Awesome.
Going off my mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I probably made one big mistake, which was buying that first one with no support, no education, that sort of thing. What about yourself, Scott? Like, what mistakes did you make?
Mistakes that I've made. Oh, wow. The number one mistake I've made was really going into that country property and renovating it. So when I gutted that and renovated it, I used tradesmen.
So where in the country?
It's in a small town called Merriwell in
Where's
New South
that?
Wales, kind of Upper Hunter Shire, I think it's on the way to Dubbo.
Okay.
Yeah. And I used some tradesmen there, and very young, didn't realize. I thought I knew everything, and I'm like, just get some tradesmen, do this, bang, 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 we can get done. And not realizing, hey, you should really be checking all their licenses and checking all the insurances, and you should have records of that on file. So if something happens, you can claim. I ended up having that renovated, beautiful house, took it from, really not to standard to up to standard, and had a tenant in there. 6 months later, the tenant called and said, hey, everything's falling apart. Tiles are shifting.
Wow.
You can't close drawers, cabinets, the water's not going into the sink, that type of stuff. So they were like, look, it's not livable. We're going to move out. It's been a very, very expensive lesson. Rule number 1, check your tradies' licenses.
Yeah, geez. That sounds like a real shoddy job.
It was a shoddy job. And then
Did you actually look at the property when they'd finished?
Yeah, it looked beautiful.
And then all of a sudden,
because you're not tradie, so you don't know. Under the tiles they need to have blah 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 blah, or on the walls they need to have X Y Z. Right? You just kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, it looks nice.
Oh gosh,
You're not trained in that field. So unfortunately, and then I also took it to the next level and went, oh my God, they did the wrong thing. I'm going to sue. No. That cost me 50 grand.
Oh my God.
I won. I tell this story in another episode, but yeah, I won. But then we couldn't chase the money down.
Oh gosh.
So, I mean, if you want to be right, you can be right.
Yeah.
But I think what matters in this case, it was money. So had I known it was going to blow out to that cost, then I probably would have went, don't worry about it. I'm just going to cop it on the chin, renovate it properly, get a builder in, remediate those works, and at least have it tenanted.
Yeah, that's a pretty crappy story.
It's one of my life lessons.
Yeah, it's just a very unfortunate life lesson to learn, to be honest.
Yeah. So
Aside from that crappy experience, right? How many properties do you currently have?
right now I have 3.
Okay.
So I've got the Penrith one, I've got that country one. Still holding on. That country one, we're putting a DA on it now. So we're going to try to get the highest purpose for that block now. If we can knock down that house where it's not livable and get 3 townhouses on it, then I'll decide whether I flip or just build it out. And then at the beginning of the year, I bought one in Queensland.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
And I actually used a buyer's agent.
Oh. Well, Scott, where were you?
Where were you?
What was that experience like? Tell me a bit about that. Where'd you buy? How much?
I ended up buying in Gladstone. Buyer's agent was really, really good. The buyer's agent that I worked with was really, really, really good. He was available, on call. He would go through the data, explain and then before negotiation, he would say, this is our target price. What would you like to close this at? And I would be like, is this a test question? Because, I'm Asian. And
lowest possible.
And I live the Bing Lee philosophy,
What's the Bing Lee philosophy?
Everything's negotiable. And I was like, so I said my number and then he goes, okay, so if you want that number, we need to come in lower. I went, oh wow. Okay. He goes, it's okay. I'm here on your side. So we haggled for a bit. We ended up getting it for 320. And I just went, you can't find a house it's not new. It's probably 20 years old or maybe even 30 years old. It's a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathroom, 700 square meter block. Like, can you imagine that in Sydney? You just can't get it. And the yield was like, at the time, I think we pushed the rental market a little bit over because everybody was capping their rents at 400. So we relisted it at 410.
Oh, wow.
So I think...
Did you get that?
Yeah, we got 410. And it just literally went like, it settled, we listed it, and next weekend we had tenant in.
Yeah.
So 410, I think it was like 6.2% yield. So pretty happy. It's almost neutral.
Yeah.
Does its own thing,
You had a good experience?
I did have a good experience with the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I wish I knew you earlier. You could have done
likewise. But what made you go use a buyer's agent for yourself?
Yeah, well, I decided to use a buyer's agent because, like, in my property journey in my 20s, I was very active. Like, I'm a doer. Let's go do this. Let's go create this. Let's go da. But in my 30s, I found that your limited resource are time and energy. And I didn't have the time to do the research myself, and I didn't have the energy to go and look for this, right? But I definitely want to continue building that portfolio. So I just went, you know what, I'm just going to hand that over to somebody else. We talk about me being a control freak. I handed that over gladly to somebody else who had the data, who had the resources, who had the analytics, and they tell me da. And I go, okay, fine. And we're just picking properties.
Yeah. It's also like, not having the knowledge. Like, most people know property is a great asset. It's a great vehicle to create wealth, but most don't actually really understand what it can actually do for you down the track.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what yes. It's like, what's your reason why and what is it going to do for you at the end? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. We're like in tune. Lorna, tell us. You're a buyer's agent now. What were you doing before being a buyer's agent? And then how did you become a buyer's agent?
Before I was a buyer's agent, I was actually a recruiter. Yeah, so did a completely different career. I was working in medical recruitment pretty much.
Wow, that's really niche.
Yeah, I was pretty much helping regional and rural hospitals get doctors. So we'd fly them in, fly them out sort of thing. And in recruitment, it is a sales sort of environment. There are also some really good commissions if you do well. And so using that, I was able to establish myself and, save a bit of money to get into property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was like your savings, recuperating your deposit and putting it back into property.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's hard in that sense because, you know, when you are making decent money, you start to think, oh, you know, I'd love to buy this, I'd love to have that, and then just start frivolously spending.
Yep.
I'd say a lot of people, you know, were doing that. I was very much of a saver, naturally a saver growing up the way I did. And so, you know, I pretty much sunk all my money in to assets that were able to actually appreciate, because most assets in this world, or, you know, if you are just buying things, there's no real value to them if you do go and like on sell them. Whereas with property, the beauty of it is that once you have it, it more than likely, well, most property does increase in value. And so your whole net worth increases.
It's like magic.
Yeah. Compound.
Yeah, compound. 5 years later, you're like, oh, wow, that's all mine.
Yeah, exactly.
And then so you went from a recruiter in Medico, and then you went in as a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
I guess transitioning from recruitment into being a buyer's agent, you know, there were definitely a couple of things that sparked this sort of career change. So firstly, you know, obviously building my own property portfolio, I gained that experience of having assets. And, you know, one thing that I do value is having some sort of financial security. I think it is very important. It's what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I did become interested to the point where, you know, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, watching a lot of YouTube videos. I was learning from my own like mentor. So InvestorKit, who I work for, you know, I was learning off Arjun and his own experiences as well.
Himself.
Yeah. So just like having someone there to kind of, I guess, learn off and ask those questions, I started to develop a bit of a knowledge. I guess the catalyst for me wanting to be a buyer's agent was one day about 2 years ago, my cousin had called me up and she had told me she wanted to buy this apartment in Hurstville. And like, great, you know, she's saved money, she's able to buy property, like good on her for doing that, right? But like deep down when she was telling me about this apartment in Hurstville and how the agent wanted another 10K off her, deep down I was like, please do not buy it.
Don't buy it.
Yeah, I was like, inside I think I was screaming. I was like, don't buy it. But the thing is, like, you can't tell someone not to do something. All you can do is provide them with the information, and it's up to them to decide whether or not they take action on that information.
That's right.
And, you know, everyone goes through their own journey. So, look, if she ended up buying it, like, you know, that's her experience.
Yeah.
But knowing my personal experience of buying a unit and not seeing growth and having 7 years worth of savings pretty much do nothing over 10 years. It was just, you know, I didn't want her to go through that experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of really accelerated me wanting to be in this space to prevent people from making those mistakes.
Yeah, I understand. It's so interesting because you've gone through that experience yourself, but then you've also come out on the other end, and then you've had this amazing experience of education and knowledge, and now you're just coming back in and bringing it to the market and trying to help others with your knowledge now, which is pretty amazing.
Oh, thanks, Scott. But yeah, no, like personally, you know, getting good advice and having that team, as we mentioned before, is so important. Like the thing is, if you look at any organization or any company, they're not built by one person.
Yeah.
You know, you hire the best people to create what that company is.
Yeah.
For example, you know, when I was working for Amazon, we go through such a strict recruitment process. So I was working as an internal recruiter for them for a period. And the thing is,
was it ruthless?
I mean, you do take them through a long interview process. 2 phone interviews plus 5 face-to-face interviews.
5 face-to-face? Yeah. Oh my God. By the third one, I'm like, it's okay. I don't want to.
But the thing is, like, if you look at Amazon, there's a reason why that organization is like,
one of the
one of like the biggest and best, because they hire good people to do the work. Because the thing is, more than likely, you're not going to be able to do it on your own.
Yeah.
More than likely, you're not going to be able to super successfully do it on your own. And for me, it was getting help. It was getting a buyer's agent to actually do absolutely everything.
Yeah. But also take you along that journey and educate you.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty crucial.
Yeah.
For people who are starting as well. And I think I always keep coming back to that point. It's who's in your team, who's your trusted circle, and having that buyer's agent who has the knowledge, who has gone through those experiences, and they're going to help you dodge a bullet.
Yeah.
You know, the bullet that you would have liked somebody to help you dodge.
Yeah. You know. Definitely wish I dodged that bullet. But no, it's in my portfolio. It still is, but
it's your baby. You don't want to let it go.
It's the first one, you know, you always remember the first one.
At some point, you're going to have to trade it up.
Yeah, at some point, for sure.
At some point, you're like, no, mummy
when I'm ready.
Mummy won't let you go. Okay, so now that you're a buyer's agent, so do you as a buyer's agent pick the location or do you pick the property?
For InvestorKit and for myself, location's the most important thing. Because the thing is, if you choose an asset in a location that doesn't grow, that's not going to help you with your wealth building, with being able to further scale. As well. And so location is a huge part of it. So for example, if you look at Brisbane's done amazingly over the past 3 years. It's seen so much growth. But the thing is, if you look at assets in Brisbane or properties in Brisbane back in 2010 and say you had bought a property then, you wouldn't have seen growth until say 2020. And
wow.
Yes. And so like
drops.
Pretty much you would have lost like 10 years worth of growth there. And a
when
lot
you
of people
could have been putting it somewhere else.
Yep, exactly. You could have put it somewhere else. So for example, in Sydney, like Sydney started to boom in late 2012, 2013. And so if you'd bought an asset there, you would have seen a ton of growth. And so, yeah, location's just so vital to be picking the right one.
But it sounds like location, but also like data-backed location, like knowing where the data is actually bringing you to and where the next growth cycle is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so like with InvestorKit, with our research team, they find areas that do have market pressure.
Yeah.
So there's certain indicators that can actually show that it's about to take off.
Yeah.
So for example, you know, the thing is, it needs to be a lot of factors that come together in order to actually see growth.
Yeah.
Right. So you need an area that has a good economy. So it's got good stability, economic diversity, low unemployment.
Yeah.
It's affordable.
Yeah.
It's got infrastructure projects coming through. But then when it comes to things like your property data, you need certain sales data. You need to look at that. So for example, how many listings, how many properties are up for sale? How many properties are actually selling? And then how fast are they selling for as well? Those are the sorts of indicators that you want to be looking for.
Yeah, I tend to find the speed, you know, when properties are moving very, very quick, you're like, oh, this is getting hot.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of indicators that you guys look at before you're actually, you know, closing on a location and a property.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not just looking at data then and there. You need to be tracking it on a regular basis to also make sure that you're buying at the right time.
Yeah.
The thing is, 1 month's worth of data isn't enough. You need to be looking at it and you need to see a trend happening as well.
Trend is your friend. You're picking the location, but you're also picking the property. Now, as a buyer's agent, is there different types of buyer's agents?
Yeah, there's a number of different types of buyer's agents. For myself, I've purchased nationwide and we're solely focused on the investing space. Whereas there are other buyer's agents who might solely focus on a specific location, whether that is for owner-occupier or investment as well. Yeah, those are the types. And then there are also ones that do a bit of a mix.
Yeah.
So you could also go to a specific location and be like, this is where I want to buy for an investment.
Yep.
And then find a buyer's agent in that area.
Yep.
However, how do you know if that's going to be the best area to be investing in?
So that buyer's agent will be the expert in that area, but maybe not the expert in the...
Yeah, finding the best market.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Got it. So your specialty is investing nationwide.
Nationwide.
So if one of the audience wanted to build a portfolio, what would you do? Like, take us through that process.
So when it comes to a client like coming to me or like a buyer's agent that specializes in investing, before we even go and actually buy a property for them, we need to really work out what are their goals when it comes to property investing. It could be a specific cash flow that they're trying to target, or it could be that they want to buy a forever home down the track. And so determining those goals allows us to work out what properties do we need to be buying, whether it's residential, commercial, but then also when can they buy those properties as well. So we will look at their financial situation. You know, what are their savings rate? What's their borrowing capacity? That sort of thing. And then we'll kind of create a bit of a plan as well. So pretty much, you know, before we even go and buy something, we need to work these out to make sure that they can reach their goals. And if not, what can they do to help them get there closer at least?
Sooner, yeah. Oh, I didn't realize you guys do commercial as well. So when I talk about commercial, I talk about that being the level up.
It is a bit of a level up.
It's like you've done this part and then you go level up. And then that's like when things actually start to happen.
Yeah. So commercial's great for cash flow.
Yes.
But the thing is, there are a couple of like cons to commercial. So for example, you know, typically you don't see a lot of capital growth. And when it comes to buying those sorts of properties, you do need a fair bit of capital to actually get in.
And also to hold. Because if you have a vacancy, they're usually not like a residential vacancy where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. They're usually extended vacancies, right?
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes when it comes to commercials, you can have a 6-month vacancy period. And, you know, during that time, you still have to be paying for that loan.
For that mortgage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a time and place for that asset.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But for us, it's more typically at a later stage when you have an established portfolio.
And you leveled up.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at goals, what are you looking for? So it's time. You're asking them about the cash flow, like what's their ideal cash flow? Yeah.
So, you know, what are their goals? What are they trying to actually get out of it? Is it a specific net asset? Or is it a specific net worth that they're trying to create? You know, what do they want out of it? Like, do they want to draw down, maybe sell off and I guess have cash flow into retirement? So if they want chunk change or if they want like an income stream, basically. Correct.
Got it. So if they're going into the first property with you, you'd go through your questionnaire, you figure out their goals, et cetera, and then you find out that, okay, we're going to move forward. They would have to come with, for their initial purchase, depending where they are, I would assume if they have a property, they may have some equity that they can use to leverage and go into that investment one. Otherwise, you'll be telling them what they need as a minimum.
Correct.
In terms of savings to go into that one. And then when you're actually mapping it out, do you map out like just the first one or do you map out the next 3? Like what happens?
Yeah, so you'd want to map out, you know, as many as possible as well to see like when they can actually purchase those properties. So yeah, you'd look at things like LMIs, you'd look at rental yields, the budget of the property as well. So those would factor all that in over the next couple of years. Now, when it comes to those plans, they're just plans, right? The thing is, life isn't just stagnant. You're not always going to be at that same point in time, being on that same income, living in that same area. And so things will change over the next couple of years as well.
Yes.
But it's about giving our clients a bit of clarity to see based on their current situation and where they are at with their life to see when they can purchase those properties. And
road mapping it for them.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
love it. That's exactly my mantra.
So before we were talking about how important it was to actually have a really solid team around you, I know there's like so many banks, right? And when I first bought my property, I ended up just using CBA because that was the bank that I was banking with. Yeah, it was like my first ever account. And
did you have Dolomite?
Yeah, had Dolomites.
They're so smart. They get you when you're young.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely how they've built up their brand for sure. But yeah, I personally went to CBA and just got a pre-approval off the lender in the Hurstville branch.
Yeah.
Which is where I was living at the time. Why would you go with a mortgage broker over a bank directly?
That's a really good question, especially coming from me, who has been working for a bank for over 15 years and has now stepped out to the other side as a mortgage broker.
The dark side.
The dark side. Actually, it's the better side. We don't have a one size fits all. We have many options, it's different sizes, different colors for different needs. So in the lending space, it's really interesting. You have a typical income. So if you're full-time employed, you have what we call a PAYG income, you get pay slips. That's for the majority of the market. But there's also a segment of the market for self-employed or sole traders or people who are earning investment income. And those types of incomes can be looked at differently through different lenders, bank lenders and non-bank lenders. Every lender has a different risk appetite. What does that actually mean? It means that a different risk appetite means one type of lender may be more lenient to your type of income or maybe more lenient in the way they assess your type of income to give you that borrowing outcome. So for a broker, we have access typically to 30, 40 different types of lenders. And depending on your scenario will depend on which lenders we would recommend to you as a borrower. Yeah.
I've also heard where there's certain professions, there's actually LMI waivers.
There is, if you're Medico. Up to 95%.
Wow, yeah.
I know. Learned that recently. I was like, you what? I'm in the industry. I don't even get that. Yeah, so brokers just have options. If this bank doesn't work, then we can go here. If it doesn't go there, then it can go over here. Obviously, there is going to be a point where sometimes you just need to work on your finances, work on your income, and there's nothing we can do about that. We just have to go back to the drawing board, give you some time and redo that or work on yourself for that, and then we go again. And we review it 6 to 12 months down the track. Now, going back over to you, what are the things that you should be looking for when you're buying a property?
When you're buying a property, right, you essentially want something that grows in value, but you also want the property to rent quickly and also rent well. But one thing I think with property is that people can get very annoyed when it comes to maintenance. And so it is really important to find something that is low maintenance. So for example, things like pools, we typically, would avoid a property that has a pool. We wouldn't buy them for an investor purely because if the pool does break down, the cost to actually get that repaired, it can be quite substantial. So recently I knew someone who had a pool in their investment and it cost them $6,000 just to repair it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they had to drain the pool and then waterproof it again, seal it up.
I'm not 100% sure what it was, but the bill to actually repair that was $6,000.
Wow.
And so if you can minimize that and not have that come up, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right. And so, it's just about buying a property that is low maintenance, easy to care for, one that is suitable for many people. So for example, we typically will look at freestanding houses with a backyard on a good block, but say with a minimum of 3 bedrooms. If someone is buying, say, for example, a mansion as an investment property, there are people out there that will invest in those sorts of asset types, but they're not going to be suitable for everyone.
Yes.
And so you want something that is suitable for as many people as possible.
Because you're renting them out as an investment.
Yeah. And it's attractive. It's something that someone can afford as well.
And in terms of location, is there any particular locations you're looking at?
Well,
Spill the beans.
I'll have to kill you after this, Scott. But no, like, at the moment with us, our team, we're buying in about 12 different locations across the country.
Yep.
We don't always believe that there is one specific location that everyone should be buying in. So we really do tailor those locations to our clients' needs.
Yep.
Everyone's got different budgets, different yields that they need to meet, that sort of thing. But one little location that I'll spill the beans on.
Please tell. I've been waiting for this for the whole episode.
So I'd say Townsville. So far north Queensland.
Yes.
Is a location that we're quite liking at the moment.
Okay.
Based on the data, yes, the area hasn't seen a lot of growth over the past 10 years, but it means that there's a lot of upside as well. Yeah, because typically in the long term, properties will increase in value.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of that economy as well, it's got good economic diversity.
Yeah.
It's got low unemployment.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's about $11 billion going in towards the area for infrastructure.
$11 billion.
Yeah, for infrastructure projects.
Billion.
11 billion.
Do you know what these infrastructure projects are?
It's just a bit all over the place. So yeah, they're definitely adding a lot to the area, which is great. But also when it comes down to the property sales data, we're seeing that there are less properties available for sale. Properties are selling for quicker.
So it's starting to ramp up now.
Yeah. There's also really low rental vacancies, so not a lot of properties for rent.
Why is that? So is the employment strong there?
Yeah. There's quite low employment. I believe it's about 2% unemployment rate.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know in Townsville, there's a base there, right?
Defense base.
There's a defense base. There's also a university there.
Big hospital.
Big major hospital. And $11 billion in infrastructure, which, I didn't realize there was $11 billion in infrastructure. I just like saying that word, billion.
Yeah, I mean, it, rolls off the tongue. $1 billion.
$1 billion. And so when you're looking in Townsville, are you looking at units, townhouses, houses?
Only houses.
Only houses. Yeah,
okay. Only houses.
And do you look at, when you're looking at houses, are you looking at potential to develop as well? Or just, 600 square meters, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car spaces is a good deal? Yeah.
So with us, we're typically that buy and hold type of buyer's agent. We'd buy something that's in good condition, low maintenance, easy to rent out, and just let that sit and grow.
Let it just ride the wave, ride that $11 billion wave. Man, I'm going to ride that wave now.
But yeah, I mean, it does depend on everyone's situation and circumstances. And obviously before you go and buy property, it's always important to consult with the right people to make 100%. Sure that it is the right area for you and it's going to help you in the long term as well.
I would definitely be using somebody who has data-backed knowledge and education to find the right property, because you can obviously do this yourself, but you can easily buy the same thing, but in the wrong area, in the wrong street, in the wrong location, because you don't have on the ground information. I think it's where your expertise comes in, because you guys have a massive team behind you, which does all the research, does the data backing, does the education piece, and you guys know which streets not to buy in.
Yeah, the due diligence.
Yeah, the DD.
Yeah. Avoid those areas that might actually cause you a headache, because, say, for example, Townsville, it is a flood-prone area. It is a cyclone-prone area.
Yeah,
as
I was
well.
about to go in there.
Yeah.
So insurance is like really expensive in that location. How do you guys get around that?
So there are certain providers that we typically see our clients use.
Yeah.
And we do factor that in when it comes to things like cash flow.
Okay.
So
good.
yeah, you do need to consider that before buying property.
Yeah, acquisition costs.
Yeah, acquisitions costs, but also what is the cost to actually hold that property?
Yeah.
Right. You know, we always talk about holding the property, but if you can't hold it for say 10 years, what's the point of buying it? Because you're just going to have to get rid of it or sell it.
It's like, do you want to ride that $11 billion wave or not? That was really, really insightful. Thank you for sharing and spilling the beans on that one.
No worries, Scott.
Now, to someone who is listening at home saying, I can't even buy my first home, how the hell am I going to buy an investment property? What do you want to say to them?
I think it's about having the right attitude.
Yeah.
And just saying I can't or, you know, those sorts of things, it just doesn't put you in the right mindset or mind frame to actually move forward either. So it's about doing the best with what you have and trying to be as efficient as possible with it.
That's right.
As well. And so, yeah, when it comes to buying property, yes, you know, people might think, oh my gosh, you have 5 properties. But the thing is, everyone started with one. I started with one. You started with one. Now you've got 3. And so, you know, it's about taking the next step. When can you buy the next one? You know, work towards that.
Yeah.
It's always about working towards moving forward, trying to reach that goal. And even if you don't reach it, at least you're further into it than you were, say, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So always start with your mindset.
Yeah.
Right. So mindset is key. If you think you can't do it, most likely you can't do it. But if you think you can, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just about, you know, putting in the work, acting on it as well. For sure.
Exactly. And action taking. We just spoke about that in another episode. And it's just taking action. So I really, really like that. So if you're in the market and you haven't even bought your first home, just take action. If that means saving your deposit, save your deposit. If it means educating yourself, educate yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah. And our lucky last question, what does the future of your property journey look like?
Property journey in the career sense or the portfolio sense? Well, I mean, you know, right now, I'd love to be looking at purchasing over the next year, no, over the next 12 months, but we'll see how that goes. The thing is, when you do buy, it's super exciting, right? It can get quite addictive, as you can see, you know.
I'm with you. I'm on this addiction. I like to hoard properties.
This is the addiction you want to have. But yeah, it is really addictive when you start getting into property and when you're starting to scale a portfolio. It's like when you get one, it's like, oh, when can you get the next?
Yeah.
When's the next hit?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I need to swap that one out, and then I'm gonna buy another one and then level up.
Yeah. It's always about leveling up for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lorna. I really enjoyed this episode with you, and thank you for spilling the beans on the 11B. So thank you everybody for listening to Catching Up with Property. I hope you got a few gems out of this episode, but stay tuned. We're going to be having more of these types of conversations. See you. Bye.
Bye.